Well, this is Joyce Jagger, the Embroidery Coach, and I want to welcome you today to our training. And I want to ask you a question. Do you ever have issues when you're running your jobs? One of the greatest struggles that every embroiderer faces is thread breaks and puckers and too many stops and starts when they're trying to run a job. I know for a fact that used to plague me quite a while ago, and then I made my checklist and everything happened. So, every time you get a design back from the digitizer and you go to sew it out, you go through the same issues and you really don't know what to do about it. You might be facing a lot of anxiety every time you start a new job, and it is so frustrating. Now, today that problem is about to change, and the reason being is I created this checklist for embroiderers just like you to help you discover what the issue really is when you're sewing out your designs without the anxiety of having to keep going through that, okay? Now, I came up with this checklist many, many years ago, and I have changed it, I have updated it, but it really gave me clarity and helped me pinpoint what my issues were when I was sewing out designs, because sometimes you really don't know what it is. You're not sure if it's your design, you're not sure if it's your needle, your thread, you're not sure if it's your machine is running too fast. And we're going to go through this checklist step by step, and we're going to talk about each one as we're going through it. So I want you to pay close attention. If you don't have it already printed out, go ahead and get it printed out. And I want you to use this faithfully when you are going through printing out your designs, okay? Now, I'm going to show you. Here's one that I've been using for years, okay? Now, what I want you to do is you print it out and you put your back sides together, okay? Literally, your back sides together, and then laminate this, all right? And then when you do, you've got this area in here where you can write on it. Okay, so I have used this over and over, all right? And you can tell this one is updated, this one is not. So, but I use this area right here to write down all of my issues, okay? When I'm sewing out a design. Now you can write it with a dry erase pen. You can get thin ones. And just like I said, just write it in the area. And it's a huge help, okay? And you can go back to your software and go over your design in your software and try to figure out exactly what is happening. Now, with it in front of you, I want you to look at it. And the very first thing is preparing for the sew out, okay? What type of garment is the design going to be sewn on? This is very important because you're going to have different settings for different designs, for different fabrics, okay? And what is the fabric? What type of backing is required and how many layers? So you want to be thinking about this as you're going through this and checking off. If this is a knit, are you using topping? Are you using the same type of fabric that the finished design will be sewn on? This is extremely important. Don't be trying to sew out your designs on a piece of backing or on a fabric that has nothing to do with what your finished product is going to be on, because they're not going to look the same. Your settings are going to be different. They're going to be required to be different, and they just are not going to look the same. I've seen so many embroiderers, and I used to do it myself until I realized that that wasn't working. But when we first started out, we did all of our sew outs on backing. And I see so many embroiderers still do that today. And please do not do that because it just doesn't work. All right. Now, is the garment hooped tight enough? Does it sound like a drum when you tap on it after it is hooped? Again, very important. If it's a cap, do you have it hooped tight enough? Are you using the clips that go on the side of the cap? This is extremely important. I've gone into many shops and they couldn't understand why they were losing registration when they weren't even using the clips. And to them, the clips were a waste of time. It just took a little bit extra time and they didn't want to deal with it. Well, it is very important. You need to deal with it, okay? What needles are you using? Are you using the right sized hoop? Okay, back to needles. You want to make sure you're using a sharp needle on a woven fabric and a ballpoint on a knit. And you don't want to keep changing needles. So if you set your machine up so that half of the needles are sharps and half of them are wovens, you've got that problem solved, okay? It's a lot easier to keep changing thread than it is to keep changing a needle. So again, that's very important. Are you using the right sized hoop? Do not try to embroider a little teeny design in a hoop like this. It doesn't work. You're not going to get good registration. You're going to have too much flagging in the hoop. You just don't want to do that, okay? You want the size hoop to work with your design. Okay, and what is your machine speed? Again, extremely important. Now, when you buy your machine, they tell you you can run this thing at 1,000 stitches a minute, 1,500 stitches a minute, 1,200 stitches a minute. Don't do that. Don't ever, ever do that. You don't want to run that machine more than 850 at max, all right? I have found out through many years of experience, the faster your speed is on the machine, the lower the quality is on your embroidery, okay? You're not saving that much time, but you're ruining your design. So, like I said, don't ever run your machine more than 850. And we run ours around 700 to 750. And then when we're working on caps, we keep it down to between 6 and 650. You're going to get a much better quality design at the end of the day, okay? Now, after you've sewn out your design and you're looking at your garment, do you see any needle holes in the fabric when you hold it up to the light, all right? It's very important. If you have any doubt at all whether that has holes in it, just take your embroidery and hold it right up to a light. And you're going to see the holes if there's holes in there, all right? And look at, like the centers of your letters and around the edges where you've got lock knots, those are prominent places for holes. Are there any loops in the top stitching of your design? Okay. You don't want to send something out that's got a loop on it. If you have a loop on it, you want to turn your sew out over and scratch at the back and see if you can't pull that loop in. All right. And then take some fray check. We get fray check at Joann Fabrics. And then dab a little bit on the back. Never put fray check on the front of your garment. Never, ever, ever. All right. Always on the back, and try not to get it on any of your fabric. You want to just get it on the threads. Okay. And I show you how to do that in one of the finishing videos. Now, does your lettering look crisp and clean? Is it sewing out even? If not, what is happening? Okay. And if it's not even, you need to go back to the software and fix it so that it is, all right? No attached threads between the stem and the dot of an eye. This is extremely unprofessional to send out a garment that the dot on the eye is still attached to the stem. You want to make sure you've got that trimmed between the dot and the stem. Now, if you're trimming it, if you didn't cut it out with your software, you need to make sure that there's lock nuts in it. On that dot, you want a start lock and a stop lock, okay? It's, again, very important because it's going to rip right out if you don't. And very often on that dot, you need to increase the size of it a little bit, not the bottom of the eye, just the dot. Just pull on it and make it a little bit bigger, okay? And that's going to make it look a whole lot better. Does the design look like it's sitting on top of the fabric, not sinking in? Again, another very important factor, all right? And any kind of rough texture, and I'm talking about a rough textured fabric or a knit or terry or fleece, you want to make sure you're using solvay or topping, okay? Do you see lumps at the end of the letters? Now, if you do, you've got to move your lock nuts up 2 stitches, okay? I don't care what software it is. It will not work moving your lock nut up with 1 stitch. It's got to go up 2 stitches, all right? And that will, you won't be able to see the lump then. Okay, let's see. Now, is any part of your embroidery distorted? Again, very important. If you pulled your fabric when you hooped it, if you stretched it when you hooped it, your design can get distorted. You want to be very, very careful with that, all right? Do you have any sharp detail in design, such as a detail around fill and the satin areas? Is any fabric color showing behind your embroidery? All right. Now, what I mean by that is your fabric showing through? You don't have enough fill in it. You want to take care of that. Do you see any bobbin thread showing on top of the embroidery? Now, if you do, you can take a colored permanent marker and just touch the very top of the thread. You want to be very, very careful that you don't touch the garment or any part of the thread that should not be colored, that you just want to touch the bobbin white thread. That's it. All right. Do you see any puckering in your embroidery? Now, when you sew out your sample, and if you're sewing it on the same type of fabric and you see a little pucker in it, then you don't want to sew your garments out until you've got that solved. Most of the time, it's how it is hooped, all right? It could be that there's too many stitches in it, but most of the time, it's how it is hooped. Now, what you can do to eliminate this is to take a piece of cat backing and place it underneath your hoop before you start sewing. And most of the time, that will stop that puckering. Now, not always. It depends on what kind of backing you're using to begin with, but make sure you're using the right kind of backing for the fabric. And I tell you that many, many places. And if you are not sure of what you should use, then pull out your hooping guides to find out exactly, because it's right on your hooping guides. Now, talking about these right here. All right. And it says right on it what backing to use and what needles to use. And I have mine laminated. I mean, it's perfect to laminate. Again, put my both sides together on these, the back sides, and laminate them. Do you see any gaps between your borders and your fill areas? Again, this is very, very important. Is there any underlay hanging out around the lettering or any pieces of the segments? You'll see little tiny loops around the outside of the stitching. Now, there's 3 ways to eliminate that. Either your underlay stitch is too long, all right, so you need to shorten up the stitch, or your tension is too loose on your machine, your top stitching is too loose, your top thread, or your underlay stitching is too close to the edge. It would be one of those 3 things, okay? Now, is proper backing used so that it doesn't look like a big patch on it, all right? It's very important, if you can, to use no-show backing on your lightweight knits, all right? And especially on the light colored ones. Now, it's not necessary to use no-show on your fleece, your sweatshirts, or your regular fleece. But for your lightweight knits, it's very, very important. Now, is your backing trimmed neatly and close to the embroidery? And then last but not least, you don't want any long threads hanging on the back of the embroidery. I have seen so many things, gone to so many shops. I mean, even you go into a store and see and look at the back side of the embroidery. You see long threads. I mean, it's horrible. A lot of people, they don't even think about it. They just trim off the top, pull off the backing, and away they go. And you want that back to be trimmed so that it looks neat. Now, again, use this every time you sew out a design. I don't care if it's one that you have gotten back from the digitizer or if it's one that you put together yourself. And you are going to learn what your real problems are. And you're going to be able to check out in a hurry whether it's your the design itself, or whether your machine's going too fast, or you need to change a needle. There's so many things that go into production issues and that cause production issues. And you can avoid 99% of them, all right? Don't just sew something out and think all of a sudden if something's wrong that it's the design, that the digitizer did a bad job, because that is not always the case. Now, you've heard me say a million times, you need to be able to edit your designs. You need to be able to go in and check your settings, check the density, all the little fine details. You need to be able to pinpoint what is wrong with your design without even having to go back to the digitizer. But if you can't do that with your software, you need to understand what is wrong so that you can tell the digitizer what is wrong so they can fix it, okay? You need to understand what type of underlay, what type of pull comp and density should be used in your designs. Now, a lot of digitizers digitize their designs with a very heavy density. So that's the first thing you check. You want it digitized at a medium density. I mean, just get used to the fact. Tell your digitizers you want it digitized at a medium density, all right? You can always add density, but you can't always take it away when you don't know exactly where to take it away from. All right. Does that make any sense? Yeah. Are there any questions on that part right there? Okay. Is that all easy to understand? And this is just so important. Okay. I didn't just create all these checklists and printouts for you guys just to do it. I did it for a reason. I did it to make it easier for you. And so many things I created as a result of having the business and going through problems of my own. I mean, I created all kinds of checklists as a result of my own problems. All right. So I want you to benefit from these things. Okay.